Newshour Special Edition.
Hello and welcome to the Newshour Special Edition. I'm Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan. On the show today, we'll be discussing a threat that's been put out by terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Have the statements by mainstream Netas now emboldened such persons who are terrorists? That's the subject of our debate. But the first up on this debate are the headlines. Days after Congress Netas like Saifuddin Soz and Ghulam Nabi Azad legitimized so-called boys with guns, emboldened terrorists resort to threatening civilians, warn of inhuman punishment for Kashmiris having links with the army. First, he defended those accused of raping an 8-year-old, and now BJP MLA threatens journalists with Shujat Bukhari-like fate. Opposition demands action, but BJP goes on silent mode. In a major victory of forces after they were unshackled last week, 2 Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists gunned down, while another surrenders after a fierce gun battle in Kulgam. This comes days after the chief of ISIS Kashmir was eliminated. With his party being denied registration by the Pakistan Election Commission, 2611 mastermind has found a loophole to contest elections. Hafiz Saeed virtually hires a dormant party to give him and his family tickets for the upcoming polls. In a big blow for probity, the CBDT has opposed the Election Commission's transparency push, says asset verification of election candidates can't be published according to present rules. Netas attempt to puncture Delhi's as the pollution chokes the national capital. Protests intensify over planned felling of over 16,000 trees to make space for a colony for bureaucrats. AAP government and centre locked in a blame game. Now, days after Congress Netas like Saifuddin Soz and Ghulam Nabi Azad legitimized so-called boys with guns, emboldening terrorists who have now resorted to threatening civilians. In an unprecedented move, Hizbul Mujahideen has threatened civilians, warning them of inhuman punishment if they maintain close links with army and police. Our Netas giving terrorists a handle in Kashmir.
Soldier in Musharraf told them, look here, Kashmiris don't want to merge with Pakistan. Their first choice is independence, but unfortunately independence is not possible.
First, he slandered India. Then he legitimized terrorists. As Congress Netas give a handle to Pakistan proxies, now these boys with guns are threatening innocent Kashmiris.
Recent statements by Congress leader Ghulam Nabi Azad and Saifuddin Soz glorifying terror has encouraged terror outfits like Hizbul Mujahideen to an extent that once again they have started facing posters threatening people of Kashmir of dire consequences if they will continue to visit army camp or special operation group of police camp in Kashmir Valley.
The BJP has condemned Congress Netas for speaking in Lashkar's tongue.
Congress Lashkar-e-Toiba की भाषा बोल रही है. ये भाषा इस देश की एकता और अखंडता के लिए बहुत खतरनाक है. समय रहते इस देश को इस भाषा को समझने का प्रयास करना चाहिए और इसीलिए हम बार-बार कहते हैं ये देश कांग्रेस मुक्त होना ही चाहिए.
Security analysts feel that this is desperate attempt by Pak-sponsored terror outfits to generate fear psychosis and instill fear among the minds of the people to sever strong ties and bonds between Kashmiri Awam and Indian forces Jawan.
Will Congress Netas apologize for insulting India and siding with those who threaten India's integrity? Bureau Report, Times Now.
You're watching the Newshour Special Edition, Debate Number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And for more on that, we have our guest joining us live. Nalin Kohli, national spokesperson of the BJP, is with us from Chandigarh. We also have Major General G.D. Bakshi, retired defence analyst, joining us from Delhi. Babar Qadri, lawyer, joins us from Srinagar. We have Nadir Ali, director of the Centre for Peace and Justice, joining us from Srinagar. Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist, joining us from Delhi. I'm going to go right across to our guest joining us from Srinagar first and foremost. Babar Qadri, what's going on? What is happening? Open threats being issued in this manner to any kind of citizen if he helps the army or the police, and inhuman action is what is openly being said in this poster. I mean, come on, this is not acceptable at any level.
See, sir, you have to admit one fact, whether you admit it or not, that it's immaterial for the situations prevailing in Kashmir. There are two forces, one is, and both are combatants. One is a militant force, another is armed forces. The way armed forces ask people not to go close or not to give shelter to the rebels, the same way rebels may ask people to. This is from.
Oh, really? You're actually equating the two?
Armed forces.
Does the armed forces go around threatening people with action? Does it go around threatening people they will be killed? Does it issue posters in this manner?
I'd like to come in for a minute, please.
What are you talking, Babar Qadri?
You have to admit this fact.
No, armed forces go around issuing posters to civilians.
In their hands.
Excuse me, Babar Qadri. Armed forces go around issuing posters to civilians.
A person with gun.
Where have you seen a poster by the Indian Army? Please tell me, Babar Qadri. Where have you seen a poster by the Indian Army saying you will face inhuman action
on daily basis?
On a daily basis, there are posters. Wow.
People are asked not to give shelter, not to support rebels.
No, not to support rebels, not inhuman action in this manner. It's not posted on walls in Jammu and Kashmir. I'm sorry. You are now coming up with all sorts of bizarre arguments, but Nalin Kohli wanted to come in on that. Nalin Kohli.
Are you accepting this?
Madam, I'd like to just bring 3 or 4 points, and I would not like to be disturbed when I make my points, please.
Yes. Go ahead.
May I make my points, please? Let's go one by one. The first point is, this is the most ridiculous. Comparing a terrorist and then calling the army an armed force. Mr. Qadri is a lawyer, so am I.
There are no terrorists.
We understand what the Constitution is.
Excuse me.
And we do understand what is. I have not interrupted you, Mr. Qadri.
Rebels.
Please hear me, Mr. Qadri. Mr. Qadri, you may speak after this. Let me finish my point. Now let me next come to the second issue. Let's also distinguish it further. My Muslim friends tell me that terrorists are against, and we all know it, are against humanity because they kill people and they kill innocent people. My Muslim friends also tell me that terrorists who use the name of Islam are doing it incorrectly because Islam does not permit terrorism. So therefore, my Muslim friends also tell me that terrorists cannot be considered as good Muslims. So from a Muslim's perspective, as well as from a constitution's perspective, a terrorist cannot be compared with anybody else. They are a category of their own. The army or the police or the security force or the intelligence agencies are by the constitution required to protect the life, liberty and property of Indian citizens. Terrorists come to destroy that. So therefore this comparison is not correct. Anyone who feels otherwise can have a point of view which is outside the realm of normality or outside the realm of what is called normal thinking.
May I rebut?
Babar Qadri, the question is this. There is no question of comparing armed forces and terrorists, and please don't even attempt to do that. The fact is very clear that terrorists play by their own rules. There is absolutely no accountability. The Indian army at the end of the day is accountable to the Indian people, to the Indian government and the Indian constitution. Babar Qadri, listen. Babar Qadri, listen to me. Babar Qadri, listen to me and listen to our panelists and listen to the question that is being made. You have made an erroneous comparison. First and foremost, there is no comparing terrorists in the Indian army. Please don't even attempt to do that. The Constitution,
it's a ridiculous comparison, not an erroneous comparison.
What the Indian army is accountable to, terrorists are accountable to nobody. They are a law unto themselves. They are a threat even for the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir, and that's what this poster proves.
Premnath Bajaj, Chamanlal Kantru, Premnath Jalali.
Okay, I have a question. 1 minute, Madhav, I have a next question. Madhav, I have a simple question to ask again. Madhav, those who killed Sujat Bukhari, a well-known Kashmiri, a good Muslim, are those people good armed terrorists who killed a fellow Muslim and killed a fellow Indian?
No, please don't make irresponsible statements now. Babar Qadri,
can you move this lunatic out of this show, please?
Please,
can you move this lunatic out of this show?
Babar Qadri, what
and
kind
I'm
of,
using
what kind
my
of
word
ridiculous
again.
claims are you making?
Can you move this lunatic outside your show, please? Why are you giving a space to somebody who's outside the realm of normalcy?
It seems you are
This is a lunatic statement.
Babar Qadri, I'm sorry. Babar Qadri, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to lower your fader now because you're absolutely not talking any kind of sense.
I will not sit on
because if you're making an allegation, it has to have some kind of basis. This is absolutely baseless. Next, you will be blaming the Congress party. You will be blaming the Communist party. You will be making all sorts of bizarre allegations. I have to lower your fader. I want to go across to other panelists joining us at this point in time. Major General G.D. Bakshi has been raising his hands. Yes, General Bakshi, I mean, this kind of a comparison, you know, comparing what terrorists do to what the armed forces do, at the end of the day, the armed forces are an accountable army. They are accountable to the government, to the constitution on multiple levels. But this kind of open threat mongering that terrorists indulge in, aren't they just taking advantage of the current political climate in Kashmir?
Look, establishing a moral equivalence between the armed forces of the Union, the armed forces of a nation state, and with these disgusting terrorists, these who are beyond the law, who have been proscribed by organizations that have been proscribed by the United Nations Security Council. I mean, what kind of a bizarre argument is this? And please, my request to you is not to get this gentleman on any channel. Any respectable national channel should now shun. He is presenting viewpoints which are absolutely seditious. It is open sedition that he has been preaching. Him and Babar Qadri and Majid Haidari and the rest of this caboodle, they come onto the national channels, they behave in an erratic, insane, bizarre manner, and I'm sorry, they destroy the level of debate. And they don't, I mean, one cannot have a cogent argument when these people are sitting here. It shows the importance of the Indian state that they are not behind the bars.
Well, absolutely. And I want to take that question over to Ashutosh Mishra.
That is the place.
Yes, Ashutosh Mishra. Now I have a question. I have a very specific question for Ashutosh Mishra. Ashutosh Mishra, the question that I have very specifically for you is this. Over the last 48 hours to 72 hours, we've been seeing a number of statements coming in from senior leaders. And these are no novices. These aren't greenhorns. These are very experienced senior leaders coming from the state of Jammu and Kashmir, people who have decades of experience, have spent at least 3 to 4 decades in public life, coming out and giving all sorts of bizarre statements. And I just want to very quickly read them. Saifuddin Soz comes out and says, if given a choice, J&K would choose independence. Army operations kill more civilians than terrorists, says Ghulam Nabi Azad. He is the leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha. Such senior leaders coming out and making these kind of statements, haven't you just ended up emboldening the terrorists to do this sort of thing in Kashmir? Isn't it absolutely irresponsible, sir?
So before that, I would like to add one thing here, Madhav, that Hizbul Mujahideen, what they are indulging in are last-minute desperate attempts by Sayyid Salahuddin. He is also head of United Jihad Council. Now, ISI, LET and JEM want to throw him out because he is not seen as being inspirational enough and working hard enough in Jammu and Kashmir. So that's why I'm glad you concede that much. But what about your leaders making these irresponsible statements, sir? What about these leaders who are coming out and saying this? Yes. Yeah. So if you listen to coming to them, so Mr. Soz had clarified later. He had quoted General Musharraf, and when General Musharraf was saying, he was speaking about Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and Mr. Soz himself has said that there can never be independent Kashmir. Even Sheikh Abdullah had said that Kashmir had 3 options: either be independent or join India or join Pakistan. It chose to join India and rejected Pakistan and independence, and this has been agreed to by Mr. Soz also. So let me also Mr. Azad said it. Yeah, what Mr. Azad said, it was he could not put it. He wasn't. Let me just read out a few samples. I think I haven't read out enough of what Mr. Soz has said. Let me quickly refresh your memory, please, Mr. Ashutosh Mishra. What has been said very clearly by Mr. Saifuddin Soz is that there are boys with guns. Please listen to me. Please listen to me. Please indulge me for a moment, Mr. Mishra. I just want to read out what has been said by Mr. Saifuddin Soz, and I'm reading out verbatim what he has said. He has said that there should be talks. They are just boys with guns. He then goes on to say that the Union of India is causing
causing unrest in Kashmir. The government blunders in alienating Kashmiris. Centre must have dialogue with the Hurriyat. But the question is this, ask for removal of AFSPA. He goes on to make a number of such statements. The question is this, at a time like this, if you come out and say that these are just boys with guns, aren't you legitimizing all of these terrorists? Aren't you emboldening them? Aren't you allowing them to come out and make these sorts of irrational threats to the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir? Ashutosh Mishra?
So Hizbul Mujahideen is making these threats as a desperate last-ditch attempt, and Sayyid Salahuddin
What about the Congress leaders who allowed them to do so?
Of NIA. So he's a desperate man. Now, coming to what Mr. Soos said, Mr. Soos has later on clarified that Kashmir cannot be independent, and when he speaks about, he's a local politician, as you said, and you have to listen to him.
What about the boys with guns remark, Ashutosh? What about boys with guns? Please answer me a specific question. Who can justify that statement? Can you justify it?
I'm coming to that.
Is it correct?
No, when he says boys when he talks about boys with guns, he's not talking about the terrorists.
Oh, then who's he talking about?
There are always
who's he talking about?
Who are misled.
This is extremely intriguing.
Those people who are misled. The terrorists should be stamped out.
Well,
there are no two thoughts.
Well, for the record, the specific quote was that boys with guns should be spoken to. If he is not talking about terrorists, then I really don't know for my life who he was speaking about when Saifuddin Soos made that statement. But I'd like to go ahead and ask Nalin Kohli if he buys these arguments. Nalin Kohli, Ashutosh Mishra trying to say that he's not talking about terrorists. He's talking about misled elements. Who are these misled elements with guns? I fail to understand. Do you understand that, Nalin Kohli?
Actually, Mr. Ashutosh Mishra has done and made a phenomenal effort in somehow trying to create a defense of Mr. Soos's indefensible statements. Boys with guns. So therefore, if I take that same logic, it was just a boy with a gun who shot down Indira Gandhi. It was just a lady with a bomb who killed Rajiv Gandhi. I mean, this is not acceptable. It's a ridiculous statement. The fact of the matter is, if you pick up the gun, you are an enemy of the state. Because the Constitution gives us ample opportunity to voice our points of view, to say everything. But when you cross the threshold of what is peace, and you pick up a gun and launch an armed struggle, because a gun is an illegal thing. Either you have a gun by license. Mr. Soos is not talking about those who have taken licensed weapons. He's talking about boys who have picked up guns. So you have already gone into gun running. You picked up a gun illegally. And for what? To play gilli danda or to go and play football in the FIFA Cup with a gun? You don't. A gun is picked up to use, and that's what terrorism is all about. Now you give it a romantic word and try to say, no, this is militancy, it's an armed struggle, it's a Naxalism, it's a Maoism. It's still terrorism, because that's the whole aim of terror. You pick up a gun and go and kill somebody else. So therefore there is no defense. Mr. Soos has taken a stance which is completely anti-national in that sense, goes against what used to be the Congress party. If the Congress party cannot now take a nationalist position, the Congress party runs the risk of now coming to a position that is being seen as very, very fluid. When it suits them, they'll speak in the national favor, and when it suits them, they will speak in the language of terrorists.
Ashutosh, respond to that.
I'm not Mehta, I'm Nalin Kohli, sir.
That's Nalin Kohli speaking. Ashutosh Mishra, would you like to respond to that? Absolutely anti-national statements, blaming India exclusively. Pakistan has no role to play in Kashmir, as per what Mr. Soos is saying.
Congress has very specifically said that it has disowned this statement. It has distanced itself from the statement. Congress, I hope he must have seen it on the Twitter.
Well, I'm glad. So, I'm glad you have reiterated that. But look at the damage it has done, Ashutosh Mishra. This is what it has led to today. Hizbul Mujahideen is threatening common citizens. We will give you inhuman treatment, they say, to citizens of Jammu and Kashmir.
This is being mixed up with Congress for... No, this is being mixed up with Congress unnecessarily. It has nothing to do with Congress or this statement. Hizbul, what Hizbul has been doing, it has been issuing such threats earlier also.
Yes.
It had issued this threat when that girl
undoubtedly they have issued threats.
The international
but in the current context,
it keeps issuing these threats.
But in the yes, they do issue threats in the past. I will give you that, Ashutosh Mishra. But in the current context, the question we are asking is: have these statements emboldened the terrorists? And I want General G.D. Bakshi to come in on that. How do you look at this, General G.D. Bakshi? Ashutosh Mishra denies this. He says that Hizbul has issued threats in the past. This is not linked. The politicians giving statements has nothing to do with Hizbul coming out and threatening the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir.
Look, the simple fact of the matter is that these are highly colored statements. These are very tendentious statements. They seem to justify the violence that is being perpetrated by terrorist organizations that have been banned by the United Nations Security Council under their resolution 1267. The Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Hizbul Mujahideen have all been banned. These are illegal banned organizations. To call them boys with guns, children with guns, with toys, and these are not toys that they are holding in their hands. They have been murdering people. It amounts to murder, and therefore any self-respecting state is bound to take action against them. When respectable national leaders from centrist national parties go about making such tendentious statements, what Mr. Azad said almost amounts to spin doctoring. He said for every one terrorist that the forces kill, they have been killing 12, 13 civilians. Now, it gives an impression that the Indian army is out on a killing spree,
absolutely
uncontrolled, untamed, etc., which is extremely sad. It is very sad, very tendentious. He is equally aware, can I please finish? He is equally aware, Mr. Azad, that for the past 3-4 years, the stone pelters have started intervening in legitimate anti-terror encounters of the security forces. They have started, while we are firing towards the front at the terrorists, they have been throwing, can I please finish? Look, if you are going to heckle, I am going to leave the program.
Go ahead, General G.D. Bakshi, finish your point. Go ahead, General Bakshi, please finish your point.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to state is that when the security forces, the army is engaged in encounters, life and death encounters with the terrorists, these brigades of stone pelters, armies of stone pelters, 200 to 300 strong, sometimes 1,000 strong, surround them from all sides, pelt stones. Just to, if somebody gets wounded, they don't permit the evacuation, so that boy dies. Now, how long is the army going to suffer this silently? These stones are lethal missiles. They have killed tourists. They have smashed the head of school children.
Right.
9,000 people have been wounded. At some stage or the other, the Indian army, the security forces have to react to just defend themselves. And in that the collateral damage
I want to bring in, yes, General Bakshi, important point that you made over there. I want to bring in Nadir Ali. Yes, you've made an important point, General Bakshi. Nadir Ali, Director of Center for Peace and Justice, joining us from Srinagar. Nadir Ali, thank you for your patience for waiting this long. I want to just very quickly, for the benefit of our viewers, read out what exactly is mentioned in this poster. It says that we have some people who are informers for army and SOG, help them kill our men, thus damaging our ongoing freedom struggle. We have info that some shopkeepers of Tral are involved in this. We have a list of such shopkeepers. We, through this poster, issue last warning to them for deceit. Otherwise, we will give them very inhuman punishment. People of Kashmir are requested to remain away from the army places as we can attack on them. The question is this, Nadir Ali, that terrorists can openly issue threats to citizens.
Yeah,
they can openly come out and say that we will give you inhuman treatment. They can publish posters, and that's acceptable?
Madhav, every action has opposite reaction. Everyone has to understand, particularly, the BJP.
I hope you're not trying to justify this, Nadir Ali.
It's a complete failure. No, listen me completely, then argue me and then refute me. But
okay, make your point.
The basic point is, the mainstream leadership has failed in Kashmir totally. You have to understand why youth of Kashmir has chosen the path of violence and the path of off-stream. You have to understand that. What is the main reason? Who is reaching out to youth? Who is talking to youth here? Tell me. Show me one, whether it's an opposition party or the ex-ruling party. They have reached to youth. It's the first time in Kashmir when this government broke a PDP-BJP alliance. People were celebrating here. It was because of the governance issue. There's a huge trust deficit between the government, between the political parties, particularly PDP and BJP, and public. So you have to understand, the basic question is...
So what does that have to do with the Hizbul poster, sir?
That is the reason these kinds of things happening in Kashmir. Who are joining the Hizbul Mujahideen? It's Kashmiri youth. Why? Why don't you talk to them?
Sir, my question to you is very simple. So what about the statements that are being made by people like Saifuddin Soz, by Ghulam Nabi Azad?
Interject?
Does that not help to further vitiate the atmosphere?
Because the question is, that is the circumstances in Kashmir. Every day we have seen only the bloodshed in Kashmir. Today, another civilian got killed by security forces. We are living in war zone in Kashmir. For God's sake, try to understand the basic problem.
No, so politicians, politicians, you admit, that a political failure by mainstream politicians is these statements by Mr. Soz, these statements by Mr. Azad have actually helped to further sort of create an aggravated situation in Kashmir. Is that what you're trying to say?
May I come in?
I'm telling you that mainstream has failed. Number three, nobody is reaching to Kashmiri people, and nobody is caring Kashmiri people.
General Bakshi, I'll come right to you. But I want Ashutosh Mishra to answer that. Ashutosh Mishra, he says very clearly that leaders have failed. This is the result of what Saifuddin Soz and Ghulam Nabi Azad and other leaders who made irresponsible statements is.
No, it's the Mehbooba Muftis.
Can I just come in? This gentleman said nobody is talking to the youth. I think that's an outright,
yes, gentlemen, one at a time, please. One at a time, please.
Statement, because for the last 8 months, the
Ashutosh, just a moment. There's some problem with your line. I'll just go to General Bakshi and come right back to you.
Sharma has been there. Who has come and spoken to him? Who has come and talked to him? I mean, he has offered that anybody is free to come and talk to him. We have been trying to initiate these talks. Then the government gave a ceasefire at great risk to the conduct of our security operations, on abating the pressure of the security operations. We gave the Ramadan ceasefire in the hope that people would come and talk. Who has come and talked?
No, why should a terrorist organization be spoken to, Nadir Ali? Those who pick up guns, why should they be spoken to? Which government deals with terrorists?
They are the
what kind of argument is this, Nadir Ali?
They are the problem.
My question to you is this: if those who are talking about the lack of dialogue today, what were they doing during 1 month of Ramzan ceasefire? Where were they? Nadir Ali, where were they during Ramzan ceasefire? What were they doing? There is an interlocutor to the government of India who is present over there. Why did they not contact him?
There was no sincerity during Ramzan. Ceasefire. There was no sincerity during Ramzan ceasefire.
Sir, sincerity or not, I mean, I don't know how you can judge the level of sincerity. That's another question altogether. But the question is, where was there an attempt made to actually sit at the negotiating table?
Ramadan ceasefire? You killed people. 46 people were killed. 70 were wounded by the actions of the terrorists. For God's sake, what did you do on the day of Eid? People were pelting stones. You
also maimed and injured civilians.
People were trying to kill.
No, I'm sorry.
What are you talking?
I'm sorry. If you're talking about the Ramzan ceasefire, I think you're very sadly mistaken. Security forces showed extreme restraint at that point of time. Quite unlike what the terrorists are trying to do over here. I'm sorry, that's a very irresponsible statement for you to make. If you are saying that during Ramzan ceasefire, security forces were killing people, I think that's an extremely irresponsible statement to make. Nalin Kohli, do you want to come in on this?
Two things you should make note of. That the ceasefire was a very, very good initiative in the holy month of Ramzan to create an atmosphere to see whether there could be peace. There were certain groups, militant and terrorist groups, and certainly Pakistan-based ones, that went out of their way to ensure that this good initiative of the cessation of hostilities, it wasn't a ceasefire but more like a cessation of hostility, of offences, was that they would destroy it, demolish it. Now, in effect, what happened is that the security forces had not been prevented from taking retaliatory measures if they were under attack. The stopping of the operations did not mean that if the bullets are being fired at the forces, they will go into their bunkers and wait for the bullets to finish. They could fire back the bullets. But from their side, they were not launching any operations. And it was a very, very good initiative. Now, if Pakistan-based groups decide to go out of their way to destroy this very good initiative, the government can't be held responsible, the army can't be held responsible, the security forces can't be held responsible. You have to hold responsible those who went out of their way to demolish it. And they are these terrorist groups. Now, in any way to find a justification around it, to try and put the ball on the government side, which came out with the cessation of operations, is incorrect. It's not factually correct.
It's not factually correct, Babar Qadri. You're absolutely wrong when you come out and say that the government ceasefire attempt was not serious, or that there were any kind of, any kind of initiation from the armies or the security forces side?
There was no contact made with the stakeholders. No politician, no militant organization was contacted. There was no contact with the stakeholders. That was your fault, Mr. Nalin Kohli, as an organization.
Please use the correct terminology. Terrorist organization.
Second, the statement which is made by Hizbul Mujahideen today has been also made by the Chief of Indian Army, Bipin Rawat, who threatened the youth of Kashmir that don't stools will kill
I want to say something. I want to say something, Madhav.
Yes,
Madhav, I'm not going to be on this show with this lunatic. And I mean it. I can't be sitting here with somebody who's a spokesperson for terrorists. I'm sorry. I may want to make it clear. I'm not going to sit with somebody who's a spokesperson of terrorists. I'm not going to sit with somebody here who's now taking the stance against the Indian Army, the Indian state, the Indian constitution. This man has lost it. And I want to make it clear. Please don't invite him or don't invite me. I don't wish to sit with this man. Why should I give him any space to talk the most lunatic things? Comparing the Indian Army chief with the terrorists and Hizbul Mujahideen, I'm not going to tolerate that.
Please be very responsible in your comments.
Everything has a limit. This man crosses all limit, and I'm sorry, I will not legitimize him on TV. Let me move off TV. You can interview him as much as you want.
No,
we don't need a man like him sitting and comparing the army chief.
Is well taken.
It takes a lot to go and take a bullet in your chest.
Well taken.
It takes a lot to take a bullet in your chest for another person who's a citizen of the country.
Well, absolutely. Well, absolutely. And in fact, I want to go to Nadir Ali. Nadir Ali, I want to repeat. Okay, General G.D. Bakshi wants to come in on that. General G.D. Bakshi, go ahead.
You know, I am now getting very distressed. There are a set of these people, Qadri, Majid Haidri, who have been spouting venom against the country, who have been making seditious statements, and it actually holds the Indian state to ridicule that such people are allowed to get away. No action has been taken against them for all this while. It is, and I don't think we should let I don't think we should let the national channels give a platform and credence to such disruptive elements who are outright, lampooning the Indian state. Day in, day out, they disrupt every civil debate that is conducted. They do not let it be conducted in a civilized manner. They start shouting, they're screaming, ranting and raving on this thing. They try their best to disrupt every other speaker.
Well, we have completely lowered his faders completely, General G.D. Bakshi. We have completely lowered his fader at this point in time, and I have a few questions though for Nadir Ali. Nadir Ali, in fact, this is not the first time that Hizbul Mujahideen has come out and threatened the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir. And I have with me a whole list of such incidents, from May this year, where a group of militants appeared and threatened citizens in North Kashmir's Hajin village. There is another incident that is reported from Bandipora itself. There is another statement that has come out on social media. We have seen them come out and warn women from participating in sports, asking them to stay away from the Indian Army. We have seen them threatening to pour acid, mind you. Pour acid in the eyes of those who contest the Kashmir Panchayat elections. There's a very long list. I don't wish to go on with examples, but the question at the end of the day, Nadir Ali, is this, that how can this be allowed to go on? These people who have absolutely no humanity, who are coming to and threatening all sorts of inhuman, barbaric acts, how can there be any support for such individuals?
No, should I speak, Manav, or...
Yes, Nadir Ali, my question to you is this. I've given you a list of instances of these kind of ghastly threats that they've made in the past.
So what is the way forward? What is the way forward? How can we solve this problem then? The only way forward is that we have to talk to them. What is the actual problem?
Yeah, and you expect talks to take place when violent acts are being perpetrated? When there are terrorist strikes being committed? Nadir Ali, is that the best way? No, I'm asking you a question. When there is continuous stone pelting, when there are terror strikes on individuals, when there are threats... No, please listen to my question. No, you have made a point. No, let me also counter your point. Nadir Ali, you have asked me a question. Please let me respond to your question. You have asked me a simple question. Do you expect that the problem will be solved when there are journalists being shot and killed, when there are threats being issued to the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir, when there are security men who are brutally and on camera very brutally being killed like rifleman Aurangzeb and n number of security force personnel? Is that the solution?
Stakeholder, if we have started dialogue, this Shujat killing would not have happened.
No, so who do we have dialogue with? When there is a ceasefire announced, nobody comes up to talk. And then you blame the center.
I'd like to come in, Madhav, and I'd like to answer Mr. Nadir Ali straight.
Ceasefire was the relief for people of Kashmir. I thought you would extend ceasefire in Kashmir.
Okay, Nalin wants to respond to you.
Extend ceasefire so that you could kill some more people.
When the ceasefire took place, when the cessation of operations took place, Madhav, when the cessation of operations took place, you had the murder of Sujata Bukhari.
Kashmir.
Now, let me also, Mr. Ali, I've understood your point. I'd like to make a point, please. Let me make the point. There are 3-4 points here. First, let's go back to history. It's not the first time that there have been armed struggles or people have picked up the gun. But whenever there has been a talk, no, I'm going to make it clear. Mr. Ali, I didn't interrupt you. Let me finish, please. Whenever, take the case of Lal Denga in Mizoram. He ran a movement against the government of India, but then he finally came for talks in the framework of the constitution, came over ground, contested elections and became part and died a nationalist. It can be done, but it cannot happen with the threat of the gun. It cannot happen, I will kill people, so you have to talk to me. It never happens like that. It happens nowhere in the world. It happens when somebody says, I'm putting down the gun and I wish to talk in the framework of the Indian constitution. And that has happened earlier. It has happened in other countries also. In the cessation of operations, there was the murder of a well-known Kashmiri person, a learned journalist, a good man, Sujat Bukhari. We should be condemning it. Where was there at that time not a ceasefire as they call it? You have a murder there and you say we would have thought it was extended? For what? More murders of good people?
That murder.
Nadir Ali, respond to that. Respond to that, Nadir Ali. Which government will talk to you if you go on killing and maiming citizens and security forces like this?
You can't target Kashmiris on air. The basic question is we have respect of institutions, whether it's army institution or police institution. But the basic point is you are not talking to Kashmiris. I told you if you have started dialogue with all stakeholders, Shujat's killing would not have happened in Kashmir. You are not talking to anyone. That's the main problem.
But the question still remains, doesn't it, General G.D. Bakshi?
I think there's another.
If there's violence going on, who do we talk to?
The youth groups did not come forth. 8 months.
Madhav.
8 months we had an interlocutor. Mr. Sharma.
Who is going to come in front if you are going to have terrorist organizations threatening the people of Jammu and Kashmir?
Answer that, Nadir Ali.
And you want us to talk to terrorists with guns?
I didn't hear.
No, the question that is being asked is very simple.
Tell me
who will talk to you if you're going to indulge in this kind of violence?
Who is going to come ahead and talk if you are going to have terrorists?
And by you, I mean the terrorist organizations.
Citizens of Jammu and Kashmir of death and inhuman activity.
Why don't you follow Vajpayee's path again? Was he talking to terrorists?
No. I don't think.
Anti-national then?
No. I don't think you need to teach people which path to take. But anyway, Nalin wants to respond to you.
Is Salahuddin and Hizbul are not Indians? Why should India talk to them?
See, I think you can't have a situation. You can't have a situation where you say people should come forward and talk. Those who wish to talk are being killed. What was the article that Sujat Bukhari was writing earlier? Here was a man who was saying there should be talks, we should all be there, we should solve the problem. He was murdered by terrorists. So therefore the
quick response from Ashutosh Mishra. Quick response from Ashutosh Mishra. Ashutosh Mishra. Does it make any sense when this kind of violence is on to continue with talks? 30 seconds and we have to wrap up on this debate.
Madhav, Hizbul is not an Indian organization. They are a terrorist who are nurtured by ISI, and they will always do this. And this is nobody can talk to them. They have to be stamped out by the army. Salahuddin is doing this just because he is desperate to retain the chairmanship of United Jihad Council. And they cannot be treated as Indians. India will never talk to his.
On that note, we are completely out of time. Cannot talk to terrorists when these kind of ghastly terror strikes are on. The big question, though, is whether it is our politicians in Jammu and Kashmir who've given out a lot of extremely controversial and some would say unpatriotic statements, because of which now the terrorists on ground have been emboldened to issue such threats. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us on this debate.